Hi, my name is Cold Beer and StarCraft 2 was released 15 years ago. That makes me feel old. So what am I doing reviewing a game that was released in 2010? Isn't the game completely dead? Who even remembers StarCraft 2 these days? Well, surprise, surprise, but so it happens that people are still playing it after all these years, and not just a handful of fans from Korea. StarCraft 2 as a 15-year-old game has an enormous player base. Every day around 100,000 unique players log into StarCraft 2. That is fresh info, not something from years and years from the past. Look, in the August of 2024 there were 135,000 players daily on average. So take this review as my quest to find out why that is happening. The first reason, and probably the main one, is because the game is free. So you can download it anytime and dive into battles without opening your Slim wallet. No offense. Blizzard is keeping multiplayer servers up and running day and night. Also for free you can play the whole Terran campaign called Wings of Liberty. That is at least several hours of engaging, very well done gameplay. And the campaign is single player. How many free AAA single player games do you know? Good question, right? And everything from voice acting to cinematics is made with immense quality. In all there are 3 main campaigns and 1 smaller one available, but only the first one is free. That is no way a money trap. When the game was released I paid 60 euros for this campaign and I was absolutely happy with what I got. It is not some prologue or introduction missions, it's a whole game. So what about the graphics and gameplay itself? Does it stand a chance compared with modern RTS games? Well, yes and no. I probably won't be lying when I say that no RTS game so far could beat StarCraft 2 in quality in this whole time. There were attempts, some of them serious, like Crossfire Legion, which is a nice playable game but not great, or Stormgate, which just flopped and only the hardest fans still believe in its bright future. Also there were some really great games in this field, like 5 Nations for example, made in old good StarCraft style, or well-known 8-bit invaders, or 9-bit armies, a really fun experience but not a serious AAA kind of stab to StarCraft 2 direction. One interesting RTS game in the same style is the upcoming Immortal Gates of Pyre, but the financial model of the game, where you have to buy different factions separately to play them, is beyond terrible and most of us ain't doing that. The game is in early access, but I have no idea if the gameplay is nice or not. I requested access on Steam to check the game before I made this video, but my request was ignored, so I have nothing else to say. We'll see the reviews when the game comes out. Also, one interesting upcoming game that can still decrown StarCraft 2 is Tempest Rising, but it is more oriented to Command and Conquer fans, so I doubt it will do anything in the StarCraft field. So to answer the question, is there a similar RTS game that is better than StarCraft 2? The answer is no. Nobody managed to create anything in this field that could threaten the king. You know, to take these 100,000 daily players is very tempting for every RTS developer, but the task seems impossible because of the quality of StarCraft 2. The game was made 15 years ago and nobody can replicate the quality, not because people are dumb or something, but because StarCraft 2 on release date cost around $100 million to make. If you take inflation in mind, according to a calculator, the sum now would be $145 million. Whoosh. And after that, Blizzard released 2 more major campaigns, made zillions of adjustments to graphics, gameplay, introduced co-op mode and support for 15 years. So without a doubt I can say that to make something like that right now, it would probably cost around $300 million. This sum is insane. Let's say even if you strip your game from all the unnecessary features like additional maps and modes, drop cinematics and even use the help of the AI to make the same quality, it would still cost you tens of millions of dollars to make. Nobody has this kind of money for RTS games. For example, Immortal Gates of Pyre on Kickstarter collected $150,000 and they asked only around 30, so by the budget it is a small indie game. Blizzard could afford to make StarCraft 2 just because of the many years of enormous success of World of Warcraft. Usually even bigger companies do not rake around this kind of wealth, so for indie creators this sum is as far as for a casual person moon is. So does StarCraft 2 really feels like a modern game until this day? Well, yes and no. Yeah, the graphics, even though they lack modern shading and all those fancy features, are very clean and feel crispy. It is actually easy to forget that the game is so old. But if I said to some gamer who somehow lived under a rock and played every other RTS but never StarCraft 2 that this is a modern game, he would never believe me. The main reason it feels outdated is the field of view of the game itself. Like seriously, Command Center takes up a third of the screen and you can't see anything unless you move around back and forth over and over again. Because of this limitation, Blizzard made the whole mechanic around it. You can mark specific locations and then with one push of the button go with your screen to them instantly. You have to make a mental map of the surroundings and where your units are, because you can't see much on the screen. Yeah, the minimap helps of course, and you should always look at it while playing if you don't want to lose the game. But in general, nobody would lock the screen so close nowadays. I know that everyone who plays StarCraft 2 for a long time can't notice that anymore, but for me who installed the game after several years, that was the first thing that came to mind. Like, shit, it's so close. And of course, the fact that I just played Mana Lords, where you can zoom out to see the whole region, didn't help. It was really the first time I noticed that StarCraft 2 is not as untouched by time as I imagined before. So the level of zoom and lack of fancy graphics is the biggest issue. Although graphics are still okay, there are indie games with way worse visuals we still play and enjoy, so it's not the main problem. Zoom level though, or field of view, call it as you want, is a real old school relic. Blizzard of course said that this is mandatory because they wanted to show animations up close and for you to feel the more immersive action. Balance and gameplay was specially designed for it as well. Well, maybe that was a thing back in the days, now not so much. It's not necessarily bad because the game, as I said, works just fine like that. But wait. Is that the only issue of StarCraft 2? Let me say shortly. Yes it is. The rest of the game is flawless. And now let me introduce you to the lore very quickly without any spoilers. Here we have three races: humans called Terrans, space monsters Zerg, and aliens, psionic Protoss. They are fighting each other in every way possible and even making alliances with each other to fight even more evil stuff. All I can say without spoiling you the plot, there are 3 campaigns each for every race. You start with Terrans, that one is free, then Zerg, and then you finish the main story with Protoss. There are also prologue and epilogue maps, and one small spin-off campaign where you play as Nova, a very cool space assassin lady. All the campaigns are absolutely amazing. They have achievements, difficulty levels that matter, and really great story for you to follow. The main feature why StarCraft 2 is so good is the balance between 3 absolutely different races. You know how in other games all the races have substitutes and similar units to other races, like huge Knight Warrior for humans and huge Troll Warrior for trolls, with just a slightly different HP amount or not even that. In StarCraft, every race has super unique units that do not have any substitutes. All the factions are absolutely different from each other, and that balance was polished over 15 years. It's not something you can just test out in a few months. Balance patches are being released up to this day, and professional players would still tell me that some units are overpowered. Maybe the work in this field never ends. Basically, the huge tournaments where the greatest players compete show that there is no winning race who can beat the other two. For example, in the biggest championship of 2024, the winner was Terran, second place went to Zerg, third to Protoss, then Zerg and Zerg again, then Terran, and so on. So the guys play different races and see no big issues in that. Well, maybe Protoss needs a bit more love, a tiny bit. And one of the coolest things that shows us that StarCraft is not a dead game is the prize pools of these tournaments. Last one, held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2024, featured a substantial prize pool of $1 million. The winner took $400,000 home. That's probably more than you earned so far in your whole life. So is StarCraft 2 a dead game? Well, I guess we answered that as a no the second time. 100,000 daily players and millions in prizes make StarCraft 2 very much alive. Also, that 1 million is the second largest prize pool in StarCraft 2 history, so 15 years is nothing for an esports monster that StarCraft 2 is. And if you wonder what my rank in StarCraft 2 multiplayer is, it's Platinum. Well, it was. As you can see, I had just above 3000 player versus player battles. My APM is around 150 at maximum when I am at my best. That's nothing compared with true stars of the game like Finnish Wonderboy Cyril or Korean Master MC. I was a total fan of him and many others. And like many of us back then, I was learning StarCraft 2 from Day 9 streams, watching Maximus Black play sessions and
when cheese fails show.
But I was and I am a casual player with no hopes of achieving greatness. Although speaking about achievements, I have many, and some of them are so old you can't get them anymore. Especially this free-for-all badge, because the mode doesn't exist anymore. You can't beat me here. And now let's answer the main question. Should you play StarCraft 2 in 2025? And the answer is yes, do it. It's still an incredible game. Especially because units are super responsive, you can't find any other RTS game with such a pleasant response times. So if the close proximity of the action of this RTS is not a problem for you, there is no reason why you shouldn't play it. It is amazing. 11 cold beers out of 10 without any doubt. And now it's the time where you subscribe if you haven't yet. Take your time, press that button. It's somewhere out there. Yep. Good. Now, thank you for watching, have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Say hello.